And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I am Michael Delon. Today, I am talking with John Jennings. John, thank you, buddy, for spending some time with me today.
Yeah, absolutely, Michael. I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be a fun conversation. John and I got connected a few weeks ago, actually, through a mutual friend, and we
Yep.
just kind of hit it off. We've got a
Yeah.
lot of things in common, and John's a coach for business owners. He's been a business owner for a long time. He is affiliated with Focal Point Coaching, which is a global coaching organization, but he's run his own company and has helped entrepreneurs a lot through the years. John is the author of, check this out, Your Baby is Ugly. And we love that. It's not about kids, it's about 10 truths that business owners need to hear and how to overcome them. And I've read the book, it's a great book. And we're going to talk a little bit about this and a lot about just how do you help business owners get through those struggles. So, John, tell us, man,
Yeah.
as we get started in this thing, how in the world did you get doing what you're doing today?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's not a short answer, but I'm gonna give it as short as I can. Okay.
Okay.
So I've been doing this for 6 years. Actually, we are like, gosh, I just look at the date, like 6 years to the day almost. So when I
Woo!
started,
Love that.
I need to actually go anyway, but 25 years in corporate America, corporate IT, in leadership roles from a very way too early age, actually. Never got to that executive level. I was always, these were like huge companies like Yum Brands, because the parent company of Pizza Hut, KFC, and Taco Bell, but I was in that senior manager, director kind of role, leading multiple teams, stuff like that, and had great success, but also was unhappy most of the time. I would be the guy that would come in and I could fix a problem, turn a team around, take a project that was off the rails and get it back, on track, all those types of things. I survived the layoff of 2008. I survived the layoff of 2009, which was brutal. 36% of our department was wiped out. My whole team was wiped out. I took over a team that was broken. I fixed them. I turned them from the worst to the best. And I'm like going in for my performance review in January 2010, going, man, this is going to be, they're going to give me kudos. And HR was sitting in the room.
Yeah.
And
That's never a good thing, by the way.
I was blessed though with the gift of a severance package, a very nice severance package, and I went home and slept like a baby. Speaking of babies, I went home because they had taken the hard decision out of my hands,
There you go.
and so I try not to get too emotional in this part, but I listened to one. They set me up with a coach. First time I ever worked with a coach. Worked with a coach, career coach, to help me figure things out. Everybody was saying, Johnny, don't go back to corporate. Don't go back to corporate. Well, what was I doing? I was chasing a corporate job. I was trying to get the next corporate gig because I wasn't finding anything in the small business sector. I didn't know how to find anything in the small business sector. And so like I said, I'm going to give you the abbreviated version. 6 weeks after being let go, I random situation. My son and I decided to go out and hang out with our scout troop. My son had turned 18. We weren't involved with scouts anymore. I'd retired as scoutmaster and all that stuff. And so we were kind of keeping our distance from them, to not get sucked back into,
The vortex, maybe.
but it was a beautiful morning. We're like, hey, they're out camping. Let's run down there and hang out with them. Well, at that camp out, I met several new dads that I had not met before, and a new mom as well. But anyway, the story proceeds. I had this job opportunity I had been chasing at a big corporate thing. I'd gone through 6 interviews over 6 weeks, and I went in Monday morning for the final interview, and it tanked. I mean, literally, I was not out of the garage when I got the text saying you're no longer being considered for the below mentioned.
Wow.
I mean, I was like, okay, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And so another thing that was going on right then was my church was about every 3 years we appoint elders, shepherds to run the church. And I found out on that Sunday that my name was one of 2 names that came up to be that added to the eldership. And so we were talking to them on Tuesday, and I said, guys, here's the thing. I'm starting to get nervous. It's been 6 weeks. The economy is really crappy. I'm starting to send my resume to other cities. I don't know if this is right for me to take this and then maybe bolt town a month later.
Yeah.
Um, I was optimistic, I guess, but um,
Exactly.
and it was funny. It was my friend, still a fellow elder. He said, "Well, John, that's fine. You just take your time. Let's see what happens. We just need to know by Friday." And and my and my wife, and she hates me sharing this part. She goes, "John, if God wants you to be an elder, you'll have a job by Friday." And I said, "That's cute, honey,
Thank
but
you.
I don't have a single opportunity on the board right now. There's nothing, not a thing." So you know where this is going.
Oh, yeah.
Wednesday morning, I get a phone call. It's one of those dads I'd met Saturday out on that
Mm,
camp out. And he
yeah.
goes, "Hey, you said you're looking for an IT leadership role?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, my company's looking for like a VP of IT. Would you like to hear about it or find out more?" I'm like, "Yeah." so, I sent him my resume on Thursday. They called me and say, "Can you come in on Friday for an interview?" And I looked at this company. I'd never heard of them. They were a pretty decent size, mid-sized government contractor, but was not, their they weren't known here in town. I go in for the interview, supposed to be in there an hour. I walk out 2 hours later with an offer.
Wow. Praise God. Look at that.
So, I know you're a man of faith as well. I mean, I think God had this whole plan.
Oh, without question.
he
Without question.
he had it planned out. He's the one who Saturday morning tickled me and said, "Hey, go out to that camp out."
That's
Because
right.
I had no intention of going out there, and it was just kind of a sudden urge that
Mm-hmm.
I can't explain, other than it.
Well,
So
no, and that's good because I think in business, and I think business owners get those nudges, but sometimes
yeah,
we discard them. We're like, oh no, no,
right,
because John, that didn't make any sense for you and your son to go out there. Really,
yeah,
they didn't want you there. I mean, you were not part of it, but you went anyway. And I think in business, so many times we get those nudges,
yeah,
but are you attuned to it?
right,
Right? You never know who
yeah,
you're going to meet and connect with. So just
yeah, absolutely, yeah. So I mean, I went into that small, medium-sized business, and uh, I learned entrepreneurship. I learned that I was an entrepreneur. I learned, I learned things I didn't know about myself. Things, a year in, the owner of the company said, "Here, I want you to build a commercial division." I'm like, "I don't know anything about sales. I don't know how to
yeah,
build a business." He's like, "You'll figure it out." I've been watching you for the last year, so I built a commercial division, and we ramped that thing up, and that's still going today. That job was, for a few years, was the most fun I've ever had, and
mm-hmm.
then it became not so fun, and we won't go into that part of the story, but some
Well,
just some things happen, and so a new era, new challenges, and again, a path was laid out for me out of nowhere, and I
yeah.
ended up going to a startup. You're going to ask something? Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, but isn't that very much like the entrepreneurial journey, right? It's a lot like having kids, right? Having kids at the beginning is just awesome, and then they become like two or three, and they're like, "Arr," right? And then they become
Yeah,
teenagers. Oh my! But
yeah,
when you start a business, I mean, my baby's amazing and it's great and all of this, and it's fun for a while, but then something happens, and whether it's
yeah,
marketing or operations or sales or leadership or dot
yeah,
dot,
yeah,
and we need a way to recorrect and to kind of overcome some of these 10 things you talk about in your book, but that's normal, and I think some business owners think it's not normal, but that's
right.
kind of how you help them, is when they're stuck, when they're off the rails per se, you help realign them, get them back on track, and say, okay, now go in this direction. Is that kind
Yeah,
of
absolutely. Yeah, and that's what we talk about all the time. Is uh, you know adjust and pivot.
yeah,
It's what small businesses have to do to survive. And I'll try things in my business. Some of them work, some of them don't. I
yeah,
give it a fair try, and we move on. So yeah, that I basically I went work for a startup for about a year. That wasn't going anywhere. And I This is kind of how I came into the coaching. I was talking to one of my mentors, and he says, "Well, John, write a job description of what you want to do." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Go back over your career and think of all the things that you really excelled at, things that you were, you know, that gave you joy, gave you that personal satisfaction, and just write them all down and look for themes. And so I found, I found this themes. I found the theme that I love kind of going into broken situations and turning it around. I love taking new ideas and bringing them to reality. I love, innovation and just, I love inspiring people. I love building a team and inspiring them and encouraging them and that sort of thing. And so I kind of wrote this job description, and then I went out and looked, and there were no jobs like that, not one.
Yeah.
But along the way, I was connected with a focal point coach who had posted something like the day in the life of a focal point coach. And I read it and I went, oh my goodness, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I printed it off, took it down to my wife. I still remember that day, that evening. I took it down there and let her read it. And she's like, did you apply? I said, I don't think this is a job description. I think this is a business opportunity. She's like, can we do that? I said, I don't know, but I'm going to find out. And I started the conversation then with the focal point people and just found them to be phenomenal people, highest caliber, shared the same values, and decided to make the investment in getting trained and onboarded and launching a business, and had plans of kind of ramping into it. I was like, oh, I'm going to keep my day job and kind of transition out. But as things happen, again, God had different plans, and my transition ended up being about 4 hours.
It's amazing. His timing is not our timing. A
Yeah.
day for us is like 1,000 with God, and vice versa. So maybe you just experienced that whole thing, right?
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about some of these truths that business owners need to hear. What are some of the struggles, the misalignments, the things that break in a business? What are business owners typically kind of struggling with, John, when they reach out to you?
Yeah. Well, I start off with the first one about your business model. That's really where I often the your baby's ugly term comes up is when a business model just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it's not going to scale. It's too much labor involved in getting it going, and so a lot of times I'm sitting there with a client and they're saying make this work, and I'm like making it work, it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
We have to break it and reimagine it. And that's not easy to do, especially if you built it a certain way and you just think that's the way of doing it. I was actually reminded just this morning, I do a podcast as well, and I have some emails I sent out, and I accidentally resent the email to a past podcast, because I was copying and pasting, how that causes trouble. And I actually had done this to the same guy twice, and he said, John, you're chasing, how do you say it? Something about you're chasing efficiencies but losing effectiveness or something like that. And I said, that's great. I said, even coaches need coaching.
Absolutely.
And I said, you're absolutely right. I need to rethink this process because the way I'm doing it is error prone. And
right.
I need to come up with a better approach that's not so error prone.
Yeah.
And so we're all learning. We're always learning these things.
Well, we are, in the value of having a coach, whether it's a prospect or somebody, or whether it's a paid coach, is you've got an outside perspective, and you can see things about somebody's business much faster than they can because we just way too tied into it, right?
Yeah.
And you've got to be able to, as a business owner, understand that maybe you didn't build it the right way, maybe.
Right.
And so you've got to be able to take that in. I mean, gosh, we've reiterated our company dozens of times and adjusted and pivoted over the last 13 years, but that's okay. We're in a much better spot now than we were way back then. So, go ahead.
I was going to say, the other thing that just comes up is sales strategies. I mean, and I'm not an expert in sales.
Yeah.
I would say if I'm an expert in something related to sales, it's storytelling, it's communicating, I'm a good listener, having the conversation and just listening and hearing what they say and then kind of playing it back for them. And that process a lot of times solves things alone. But I've become really kind of really into this concept of truth and building trust, and the importance of establishing trust with prospects, with clients. And so, I have a client that is having issues with sales, and a very complicated sales process. It's a complicated industry. It's a long sales cycle, and they come in and they'll say, "Look, we're proving that you spend $100,000 on us, you're going to get a 20%, 30% return." So, and I'm saying, well, if they believe you, they would be stupid. In fact, they should be fired as the CEO, CFO, as people are usually talking to. They should be fired by their board for not hiring you, because you're guaranteeing a 20, 30% return. They should be fired. Why are they not buying from you? They obviously don't trust you.
That's right.
And so that's another ugly baby moment, right? You say your prospects do not trust you. So what they tend to want to do is, well, we'll take that 50-page ROI document, turn it into a 100-page ROI document. And I'm like, that's not helping. You need to dial it back and turn it into a 1-page document. Get some clarity around it and simplify the message. At some point you pull out the 50-page document, but just let's simplify it right now and just get to the bare bones. Here's how it works. Here's why it works. And here's why you should, invest in us.
Yeah.
And it's hard for people to change their processes. They don't, especially if they've invested years in building it.
Yeah, yeah, and it's really sad because what you're talking about is building trust, is credibility, as I would frame it, and it's less about sales techniques or tactics. It's less about presenting and trying to convince you. It's more about owning your heart. And when one of my marketing strategies or philosophies is people buy who you are more than what you do. Case in point, if that company changes how they present themselves, how they connect, how they listen to their clients. Stephen Covey talked about that in 7 Habits, I think, or one of his, that somebody landed a massive deal because he listened to the needs. What were they really saying? He echoed it back to them. They felt, right? And it made all the difference because they trusted. And I think that's great, that if you can help companies understand that, I mean, that's the fastest way to grow your business.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So it's who's a great client for you? I mean, are you somebody for a startup? Are you somebody who's been there for 5, 6 years, who's just struggling? I mean, who are your ideal loving clients that you just
So I don't work with startups very often. Every once in a while I will, if they've got a little money and want to, but that's kind of a different style coaching. It's really more of I'm jumping in with them and kind of helping them strategize some stuff. I tend to work with established companies, and when you look at the life cycle of a company, you've probably seen, that we call it sigmoid curve. It's that S-shaped curve that kind of, you start your company and it starts with a bang, because every friend and former client or whatever comes in and says, "Hey, Michael, I'll work with you," and so you're like, "Man, this is going to be easy." And you start to sit back, and then, 6 months later, you're like, "Okay, where's the next client coming from?" Because I've been through my Rolodex of the easy ones, right? And so you start finding it's harder. And so we actually call that, and this is from Think and Grow Rich, the 6 feet from gold thing, or 3 feet from gold, that you're almost there, but you give up, and that's where we see most business failures, right? And so they weather that storm and they start back up. That's usually where I get involved. They've weathered that initial storm. They've now got a business that's starting to grow, but they don't, like, okay, how do I scale? I'm the owner. I do all the sales. I do all the engineering, and I do all the QA, and I'm talking to all the customers. You're probably not going to scale much if you're doing all that. So how do we start peeling you out of the business in different parts, finding trusted people to take over things so that you can actually start to grow your business? And most business owners, they struggle with letting go, but once they kind of get their, the taste of it, man, then it's like, let me get rid of this. Let me get rid of that.
Like,
and sometimes they want to go too fast. It's like, well, hey, wait, hang on. Let's not let's not get rid of everything just yet. Let's take that. And we usually start with the things that they hate doing.
Yeah.
If I'm not a detail operations type person. As you can tell, I always like fixing things and building new things. I don't want to just maintain things. And so, if it were me, it would be, okay, what are the maintaining type stuff you're doing in your business? What Now, do you have somebody on your team that can do that? Can you hire a VA to do some of that? Can you hire somebody, whatever it is, figure that out and get that off your plate, and then move to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And then that's how you can really scale your business, because suddenly you've got capacity in both your brain as well as your time, to start going, oh, we could do this or we could do that and try different things. But we
Yeah.
can't scale as long as we're, in the thick of it.
That's right. Yeah. And gosh, there are so many things that you just talked about that we could just explore in depth. One of those is, delegating, right? Delegating properly over time.
Yeah.
But the other one is as you delegate, so that you can focus more on your sweet spot, your area of excellence, whatever, your business is going to get better. You're going to love it more. But then as you continue to delegate, you get more time to think about your business. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs are so busy doing everything, they don't think.
Yeah.
And I've got a thinking process that I learned from Keith Cunningham in his book, The Road Less Stupid. It's a great book, a title kind of like yours, right?
Yeah.
But it's a thinking time. It's a 1 hour a week time, one question, think about solutions and ideas. And it's just changed how we go about things, because I'm not harried and hurried all the time. Makes a big difference. And
Right.
that's what John's going to help you figure out how to do. Because I think, John, what I figured out over the last couple, 3 years is a lot of business owners get in trouble because nobody teaches this entrepreneurial,
No.
right? Unless you go to
No.
some college, but it's the school of hard knocks, and we're
Yeah.
looking at it here. So
They don't teach you this in college because they make it look all perfect and easy.
that's right. Yeah.
And there is, I think it's towards the end of my book. I say there is no easy button. Staples may have an easy button, but there is no easy button.
That's right.
It takes it takes massive effort. It
Yes.
really takes digging in, making the hard decisions, pushing. It's some sleepless nights. It's some long days. I was just talking to somebody on my podcast yesterday, and he was talking about how he takes an hour every morning to read and just dig into things going on in his industry and stuff like that. I mean, what discipline that is to get it. And he's like, that's at home before he goes into the office, right? He gets up early and spends an hour just, in that at learning, growing mode. And that's a great lesson for clients. The other thing I'll say about my clients, I think we share this in common. I'm looking for people who are essentially providing a service where they're putting their name on the line. I'm not interested in, and I'm not saying this to selling widgets, retail type things. I work some with manufacturing, but that's not really my passion. It's really anybody from a plumber or a HVAC guy to a business coach, financial planner, a realtor, IT services, healthcare services. People who are providing something of intrinsic value that it just sets them apart, has a unique offering. And so I really love just working with people who have that passion, that they bring it every day. And they're like I said, they're putting their name on the line, whether the name's on the truck or it's just on the business card, but they're putting their name on the line.
Yeah. And that's good, because in those environments, it's normally a high trust environment.
Yeah.
And that's what you've learned in your years of corporate. That's what you help clients do, is how do you build that level of trust, of confidence in a dozen different areas in your business, right? It's not just one thing, but they kind of boil down to a few fundamentals, a few principles that then you can help that business owner take out, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And on a larger scale, that company I said, went to work for after working at Yum, our largest client was a 3-letter acronym in DC.
There you go.
Everybody knows this name, right? And I was building this commercial. He asked me to build the commercial division. So I'm at one of the large companies here in Louisville, a name everybody would know. And my salesperson had got the conversation started, And I remember took the director of IT out for lunch, wanting to hopefully help him close the deal. And he goes, "Well, frankly, John, I've never heard of you all. I know you've been around for whatever 15 years or whatever, but I've never heard of you, so I'm just not sure if you guys can handle our size." And I said, "Did you not know that we handle all these same services for,
Yeah.
you know?"
XYZ.
And he went, "You mean like their office here in Louisville?" I said, "No, worldwide, every office, every state, 70 some odd locations.
Yeah.
We we handle all of these services for all those people." Oh, okay.
Yeah.
you know, and we had a contract the next week. You
Right.
know, um,
It's that trust.
that's yeah. We that was a that's but boy, I talk to people all the time. They're really great at what they do, and they don't have the courage just to go, "Hey, I got this. I can do this."
That's right.
And say it with utmost confidence that
Yeah.
I can do what you need to do.
Right.
And that I'm not perfect at either. Otherwise, I'd be a seven-figure coach,
That's right.
sitting back,
Yeah.
doing all my coaching from Tahiti or somewhere. I'm not doing that. So I'm still out, grinding it out myself. And yeah, I just want people to know, yeah, you hire me, I'm going to help you get where you want to get. It
Right.
might take 6 months, it might take 6 years. A lot of that's dependent on other forces that I can't help you with,
Exactly.
the market, or your capacity to learn and change, or your team's capacity. All those things come into play.
Yeah.
But over time, we'll get there
That's right.
if we work together.
Yeah. And I think that's good. I mean, gosh, there's a whole nother podcast right there just around what I would call messaging, because you found a message, you found what resonated with him that would have probably resonated with six other clients or prospects,
Yeah.
right? But
Right.
so many times in business, our messaging is off just a tad, and
Yeah.
a small little change in that message to go, oh, okay, it changes everything.
Yeah.
But it is that confidence of a business owner to understand this is my spot and I
Mhm.
can do great things here. And if you're
Yeah.
looking for this, you should hire me. If
Yeah.
you're looking for that, don't hire me, right? And
Right.
to have it's not even, I call it the audacity, but it's not the audacity to have the confidence to go, I'm not great at that. I mean, if you want
Yeah.
lead generation on LinkedIn or Facebook, don't call me. I don't do that, right? If you want credibility and messaging and how to build trust with people, I'm world class in that.
Yeah.
What do you need, right? And it's having those conversations, because that's part of that sales process that you help business owners just think through and work through. It's not that you have a special script that they follow that's magic. It's
Yeah.
it's it's finessing everything and showing up in the right type of way.
Yeah.
And as you said, it might be a 6 month engagement, it might be a 6 year. It just depends. So, and that's the
Right.
one thing I love about how you operate is it's not a cookie cutter program type thing, and it's not take my videos. It's no, you get to work with John actually,
Yeah.
and you actually meet with him and build a relationship, and he understands your business and all of that. How, John, you and I could be here for the next 4 hours because
Okay.
I love what you do. And I know that there's a lot of help here, and I'm always talking to my audience about hiring coaches, because we need people from the outside of our business looking into us. If somebody's out there and they're scratching their head, or they're saying, "Oh yeah, that's me," kind of like when you got
Yeah.
that, you read that thing and said, "That's me." What's their best next step for you? How do they get in touch with you? How do they find out about you?
Yeah. Just, reach out to me, schedule time with me. John K. Jennings is my tag on most platforms. I'm most easiest to find on LinkedIn. Also, I have a Calendly link, and it's calendly.com, John K. Jennings. If you do johnkjennings.com, it'll forward to my website. I mean, I've tried to kind of stick with that, John K. Jennings, just so it's a little, throw the K in there, it becomes a little more unique. So, yeah, just reach out to me. And, I had somebody last week from Buffalo, New York, schedule a call with me, and we hopped on. I said, "Well, tell me, how did you find me?" He goes, well, somebody recommended your book.
Yeah.
And he said, so I got your book, and you have QR codes in your book. So I snapped a QR code. It took me to your website. And so I scheduled an appointment with you. I'm like,
That's exactly how it works, folks. That's
yeah,
why we help people create books. John, I did not publish your book, but you're doing the right things with your
yeah,
book. And when you have a book where you're an author, you're credible. People find it, they read it. Now he's already preconditioned to hire you
yeah,
because everyone knows you, and it's going to be a great conversation. Well done. That's
yeah,
exactly that's one of the many strategies we teach our clients. But I'm going to grab johnkjennings.com. I'm going to have that in the show notes. I'm going to have your LinkedIn profile. I want people to be able to reach out to you. And
yeah,
you're right, the K does make a difference. John K. Jennings. It makes it more memorable. And that's
yeah,
all part of your messaging, which is so very important to help you grow your business, but to help how you help other people grow their business.
yeah,
And we want to help them avoid the K. I played baseball last night with my daughter, and a K in baseball is a strikeout, right?
right.
John K. Jennings will help you avoid the strikeout and maybe hit a home run, right?
There
To
you
get
go.
and to really just make your business, get it more aligned, fix the problems that are broken. Give him a call, reach out to him, follow him on LinkedIn, check out his website. And he's just a very genuine person, and you're going to like talking with him. And he's just wicked smart too. So reach out to him. John, thanks for spending some time with me. Again, you and I know we could go on and on and on and on and
Yeah.
on. So we may do this again, but thanks for being my guest on Expert Speak, and thanks for doing what you do to really help business owners.
Thank you, Michael. Enjoyed it.